All right, it's time for the changing of the guards. I didn't really know how else to bring that in. It's just the easiest way to do it. Xenox and Guards now join me on the desk. This is where things get a little bit derailed, if you will. But Xenox, how'd you feel after the opening two matches? A bit of a shocker in the first game from Wildcard into what was a very surprising performance against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I said coming into tonight that I think all four games really have a lot of meaning behind them, that I thought we were really going to see a solid night overall. And while obviously Wildcard and Knights disappointed a little bit, just simply because of how good the Knights were, obviously we got kind of the match we expected out of Direwolves and Chiefs. Both teams down the bottom, both teams, you know, fighting to get back towards the top, and it was a kind of do or die clash. And obviously went the entire distance. Chiefs will be feeling a little bit hard done by that they couldn't quite get over the line, especially in that last round when it seemed like they were kind of shaping up to win that, and they collapsed basically. So looking forward now to the rest of the night.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to look forward to the Gladiator taking on Fury. Guys, this matchup, if you had said to me that this was actually going to be an exciting match, if you'd said to me in stage one that this was a match of the night, or at least the potential to be, I would have called you barking mad. The newest team in APAC South versus the team that has performed statistically the worst in stage one, I think, that we've almost ever seen, is now wrapping up to be something of quite a gift to all the viewers at home. Fury on what is an upward trajectory, in Gladiators once again coming back into this stage and performing better than I think most had anticipated. Where do you lie in this matchup? Do you think Gladiators have enough to take on what is a rising Fury?
Gee, what I will say is maybe you should let Xenox host, because that was some pretty good storylining from you there, Rob. So good stuff by you. But in terms of the Gladiators, yeah, interesting dynamic for them heading into the year. Expectations, I think, were still pretty reserved based on what we saw last year, but they've come out of the gate swinging a little bit. They had that regulation win against the Chiefs. I guess looking back at that, maybe not quite as impressive as potentially weighted on at the time. That was 7-3 though, so still good. And then they did have that overtime loss against IG where they just struggled to try and close that one out. So they find themselves in a bit of an awkward position, much like their opponents, really. Stuck in that mid-table, trying their hardest to continue the fight towards the top two, but they're also at a risk of regressing and falling down to the bottom as well. So for the Gladiators, it's all about continuing to improve, and they've shown us they can achieve that.
Well, you would have to say two big names they've gone up against. You've seen them take on the Chiefs, you've seen them take on IG. Xenox, I would usually say, arguably, this would probably be the easier match for them, but I don't think this stage there is any easy match.
No, there certainly isn't. Fury is a new-look team, obviously somewhat of a new-look roster as well, with I9, BG Man, obviously I9 formerly Napier, and obviously they've gotten off to a pretty good start. They took down the Chiefs, they pushed Wildcard all the way as well, 7-5 loss, but it's a new-look team that isn't just here sort of making up the numbers. Not only that, but Fury actually beat GAIMIN Gladiators a couple of days ago as well in an SEA competition, 7-3 on Oregon. So you keep that in mind as well. It's not as if like these two teams are that far apart, I think, skill-wise. If anything, I'd almost put them on the same kind of level now. Makes it a bit of a 50-50 kind of game, and that's all the due respect for both of these two teams because, obviously, as Guz kind of mentioned, there wasn't a whole lot of expectations on GAIMIN Gladiators still coming into Stage 2, and there was definitely none for Fury. In some ways now, I'm going to say it, the winner of this game suddenly has expectations to contend for a major spot. If, of course, they get, the 3 points. For Fury, they go to 6 points. They would be tied first. For GAIMIN Gladiators, if they win this game, they go to 7 points. Single-handedly first. So, and that's through 3 playdays. So that's kind of what could be for the winner of this game.
That is kind of scary to think about what the prospects of this entail, because truly, first, second place is well and truly on the line for every team but the Chiefs. That hurts to say. But let's have a look at the vetoes, the most important part of any of these best of ones. You said Oregon was where they went previously. Chalet and Oregon banned out to kick-start it. I am keen to see if we do see a newer map kind of thrown in there, maybe Skyscraper again. And thus it is back-to-back. Guz, what do we make of this one?
Look, all I will say is I can't remember the last time we had a disappointing match on Skyscraper. We've had so many close ones. Maybe a little bit of recency bias after what we just witnessed between the Chiefs and Direwolves. But in terms of these two going head-to-head, the data pretty limited. We do have a bit to go off for Fury, some mixed results, but you're throwing in some of those SEA results in more local competitions. How do you weight that against the likes of APAC South. I mean, you can extrapolate it a little bit because both of these teams are from the same sub-region, but outside of that, we're just going to be throwing darts at the dartboard, really, and seeing what lands. Very tricky to reaffirm our predictions after this veto or to maybe reconsider them.
Kind of feels like an analyst's job, doesn't it, Xenox, just throwing darts at a dartboard. I don't really know how else.
In this league, it is.
Yeah, you're just sitting in a back alley pub throwing some darts. That's pretty much how it works. But, Xenox, do you make anything of this that maybe Guz is missing?
No, I think Guz is pretty much on the money here. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at some of the statistics from the ever wonderful deathmatch tracker TM.
Bloody hell, changes every time.
When you kind of look at the stats, it's not a map that we see banned often by Fury compared to some other maps. When we look at sort of GAIMIN Gladiators, obviously there's not a whole lot to look at, right? You know, small sub-sample, but they do ban it just as much as a lot of pretty much every other map, right? So that confined with the fact they haven't really played it, whereas Fury have and have been open to play it. If there were a favorite coming into this game, I'd actually be somewhat tipping Fury now based off of this. But again, that's just marginal, and it's all really just a lot of nonsense that we're just here to talk about.
Guys, I don't know how much longer we actually have till we get underway, but we love nonsense on the desk here.
Anyone can win, let's be honest.
Yeah, you know what? We just sit on a knife's edge.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of sitting on the fence, 50-50 either way. When you think about the interaction, or rather the integration of I9 and BG Man onto Fury now, do you feel like this might be what was the turning point for this roster?
I mean, it's very difficult to look past their addition to the roster, right? I think that probably has been the main reason why we've seen such significant improvement. It's often easy, I think, to forget just how poor Fury played in Stage 1. Like, honestly, it was really quite grim for them. It didn't look good at all. So I'm so glad they made those changes. They had to be made. And so far, they are paying off. We're not looking at Fury to be one of those teams pushing the top 2, but we're looking to see them continue to improve and try and scathe off any threat of relegation towards the end of the year. So far, they are impressing, and a match like Gladiators, I think, is a really good sort of standpoint for them, a good benchmark for them to come up against, because I would put them on quite a similar playing field. And if Fury do, in fact, have improved significantly, this is a match they should be looking at and really eyeing out those 3 points.
Well, I guess 3 points on the line here. Two teams going at it, both with an opportunity to potentially head to first or second place here. There's a lot on the line, and to run you through all of the action is Devin Mandy.
Two teams that probably a bit surprised to find themselves so high up in the standings, but they're going to have to prove that they can stay there. Mandy, this game should be another tight one. We've already been treated so far today, but GAIMIN Gladiators and Fury should also deliver.
Absolutely. I think we've been shocked by the first two matches. The predictions were so one-sided, but this is one of the matches that we've actually predicted half and half. People aren't fully decided. Even the desk put it perfectly. It could go either way. On such an unknown map as well, on Skyscraper, I really don't know what to expect from this matchup.
We certainly do not have a lot of history for these teams on this specific map, and that means it is a reset and a chance for both of these teams to show what they have got left in the tank. Fury have broken their 8-game losing streak, finally, thanks to the new pickups of BG Man and I9, obviously I9 formerly known as Napiu. And now we dig into a game which is a chance for Fury to really prove that this new roster is capable.
Fury really have something to show, especially from that last week's match, which was just so fantastic from their, I suppose, from their perspective, right? They played such a great bank, they had amazing entries, they had a very unique approach to the game as well, and we'll have to see if they can replicate it here on Skyscraper, which is just such a different map to what we've seen, I suppose, in the past few playdays. And I love watching Skyscraper because I have no idea how this map works, and every time we get to watch these teams play, I feel like I dissect the map a little bit more, and it's great to follow this story. Ying and Thatcher going out as well as the first two bans. The Thatcher being quite important, getting some of those external walls are very vital on those attacks because entering is quite difficult, and Ying also is a pretty interesting ban for GAIMIN Gladiators.
You know what we get to see very often, actually, and I mean, Sadly, we won't get to see Ying played in this game to figure out why that was banned, but what it does leave is Mav is now in play, and we didn't see Mav in play in the previous game with Chiefs and Direwolves. And so, in theory, you know, with Maverick in and with Kaid left in, which we didn't see in the previous match, it does mean that hard breach denial is going to be much more at the forefront, and then obviously the Maverick is going to be one of the principal operators in countering that. We've also had the Azami. Now, Mandy, you've seen Azami for a couple of play days now. How are you feeling about that one? It was even in this this previous game that we just saw on Skyscraper.
I think Azami's just so strong. I mean, she's not going to be in this particular matchup, so it's tough to dissect exactly what she does on this map. But I think the flexibility is taken away a little bit with Azami being gone, and so many teams haven't practiced it. That being said, in this game, left in is Mirror and is also Echo, and types of operators that we used to see historically banned out quite often, but now can be put in play, especially since Mirror is now out of quarantine. We saw quite a lot in the last matchup, but not being brought by the defense on this particular round. They'll just be taking us to the karaoke tea room. We'll see what kind of creativity they can bring. Seemingly long lines of sight opened between both of the bomb sites, trying to contest that entry through the drum and through the shrine side of the map.
It's a large part of Skyscraper is holding on to as much map control as possible. You peel back the layers like an onion, you start to contest, shoot a drone, maybe find a pick, fall back to your next line of defense. That's probably going to be Dragon and Shrine, where we're watching right now. And then you've moved back to the deployable shield at the top of Shrine, closer to sight. And then you start to feel further and further back and try and whittle away that time. And that's why it's really on the attacking team to be efficient with their time management, with clearing these power positions. And Fury have seemingly brought out this this Ossa, the one that we've seen already played on Bank. They had a phenomenal Ossa play on Bank against the Chiefs, and they even remarked and said that it was thanks to Wildcard, playing against Wildcard, that they really learned what that Ossa was capable of.
Not only have they decided to bring Ossa, but they also have Sens, Dev. I'm so
Ooh,
excited. And it's Hajime as well. On the rappel directly into the bomb site, Fury, they're not going to clear the map like we thought that they were going to do. And instead, they're going to hit the site straight away just from the windows outside, from the floor below. We can see the Finker now attempting to make the entry through bathroom as well. And so the Fury, they've completely bamboozled Gladiators here, and I don't think that they have a response yet.
Said Gladiators have not seceded too much control as of yet. Here comes Dark in downstairs, but Tolji is there and does manage to punish him, take down that Finker very early on. Now Fury, they have a way into the site, but they've got their drones muted out. They've got their first player gone down. They can finally, though, get a trade.
And there we go, I9 to be the first to poke his head into the building. Hajime still on the rappel, but BG Man actually the one with the diffuser just behind I9 will start to make their way into the hallway with that Ossa shield in hand. The first Sens gadget as well, the ROU projector being used in the hallway to try and cover this entry. And then here we go, two Fury players start to sneak into the bomb site.
Oh, Lacolis, just desperately dueling with the angle, and Joe gets him on the retreat. Doesn't work out so well for Fury after all. The Sens, the last player remaining, and a nice little jump out from 8 will quickly put an end to that first round for Fury.
Fury, I think, mistiming that utility, that push a little bit. I think you'd like Hollis and Hajime there on the window got a little overzealous with their utility. That Sens projector seemed to have gone out a little bit too early for the entry to come through from I9 and from BG Man with the diffuser. A slightly disjointed execute meant that the Gladiators were able to pick them off one by one, and eventually came down to Ape in a 1 versus 4, which he wasn't going to win there on the rappel. So Gladiators, they turned their defense around, managed to fight back the picks, and eventually win out the round.
Perhaps we did get a little bit of a taste of what a Fury are going to show for us on their attacking side. Fury, we saw it against Chiefs last week. They're the team that looks for the easiest point of entry. They're not going to try and map clear. They're not really much of a lurking team. They just push together. They push hard. They push fast. They make it simple, but it can be really effective when their opponent isn't ready for it. And unfortunately for Fury, Gladiators certainly were.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Fury are one of those particular teams that take a very unique approach to this game. I don't think that we see that many teams in this region with such a diverse kind of playstyle. We often see, especially the Australian teams, like quite methodical. Even nowadays, Elevate are quite methodical, and Fury are one of those pure APAC teams, I would say, that will really send at you, that will really not play classic Rainbow Six and just walk it straight at you. Now the Gladiators, they're actually going to repeat the same side of the map, just going a floor down instead. So the setup hasn't actually changed very much in the end. Still the same power position with the shield in Shrine, the same reinforcements to support the roam on the other side, but this time they seem to be a little bit more keyed in that Fury might directly attack their bomb site instead.
And sadly, the Sens is gone. I know.
I know.
Pretty sad, but hey, Hajime didn't quite make it work out in the previous round. A funny thing about Hajime, currently the second best rated player in the entire league as for CGG rating, with the #1 player in all of APAC South actually ape on Gladiators. So the top 2 players in the league are actually on these 2 teams. And these are mid-table to lower-end teams, we would typically say. You know, you'd expect it to be someone like Jigsaw or Speakeasy, or Vinny, who would take that mantle. But no, it's actually these guys right here in this game.
And there we go, told you finding the first pick through a very long angle through Geisha. That's Hajime going down. And that's only the sledge. That's 2 sets of nades. That's not too much lost on the time of the attack. But that being said, time is starting to dwindle down. And Fury are very spread throughout this building, only just starting to get their boots into exhibition.
1 player down. Time whittling away. It's not really a great sight for Fury here. It does feel like Gladiators have a lot of this control. Ape's lucky to survive that spray. It's getting pretty edgy. Looking to peek that doorway. In comes the Gemini. Joe's going to see it. Doesn't know if it's a Gemini or a player. Eventually, the Gemini does fall back and Fury look to push in.
Fury now deciding to reconvene all of their players onto the same side of the map. We're not going to see them go for this split kind of take into the site. With a minute left to go as well, they're only just starting to clear through the top floor. Not only that, but they have the added step of having to go down under the floor if they want to hit the bomb site. But there we go, Lycor starting to edge his way into that top floor, able to play some vertical and start putting pressure on the hatches and start putting pressure onto the site. The Gladiators now, they'll have to retreat down to the ground floor. Barjo sitting in the corner of Karaoke. We'll see if he gets droned out here. And the Gladiators, they seem pretty well set up so far on this anchor.
Oh! Dark almost actually landed the shot. You can see landed 1 bullet. Can Joe find a second one? He certainly cannot. BG Man there for the trade. Now 20 seconds left in this 3 versus 3 leaves Fury with a lot of work to be done. Tolji can see 1 player cross on the vertical angle. He is hiding in the corner of kitchen as the player drops. That's the diffuser. Cold on the ground. Double kill for Tolji. And Gladiators can hold on.
I think well played from the Gladiators as well. They identified that Fury took a little bit more time than normal trying to decide what they were going to do throughout that mid-round. And I think the nature of that bomb site being on the ground floor really played into their hands as well. Fury, not only did they have to clear the top floor, but they had to have extra time in that round to make it into the bottom floor. And that's exactly where we saw the round fall apart. A double kill from Tolji as they go for the execute meant that Gladiators were pretty safe on that anchor as the Romans had just done such a good job on that top floor, stalling out the entire round. And so Fury, it seems like they haven't quite got that edge into this game yet. They need to set the pace as the attackers, and they haven't been setting it quickly enough.
Yeah, it's a bit concerning. Fury not looking great on Skyscraper so far, looking a little bit lost, looking a bit slow. And it's not a map they usually ban all that much. Fury actually did play it recently in the Operation League, so the national circuit, and they played against Elevate. They lost a close 5-7 match. So Fury have got some decent Skyscraper in them. We just haven't quite seen it as of yet. And it does make me wonder whether perhaps we're going to see quite a defender-sided game, because from what I've seen so far, Fury don't have a lot of teeth on their attack.
It seems like Skyscraper is actually quite difficult to attack as well. I think that I'm of this perspective. Fury, they've tried 2 different things now, right? They've tried one, okay, let's just go straight into the building, do a very, I suppose, split kind of pinch type of clear. Then in the last round, they tried, okay, let's reconvene all the players onto one side and sweep across the map instead. And both to very little success just because it takes so much time to get in the building. And there are not that many entryways into this particular map if you don't open one of the exterior walls and try and make an entryway that way. way instead, right? And both times we didn't see Fury do that. So I think so far Fury missing out on a few steps on the attack that's making getting into the building really hard and wasting a lot of time. This time though, they will get an external wall open, although the bomb site is a floor below. So this is just the very first step, unless the Kai can trick it. I think that one's too late though.
Far too little, far too late. Does mean that we've got a breach now on this external wall. However, there's a lot of cover on site. You can see the way that that breach was opened. It's quite a small hole. Only the left panel that has really been breached, and that does reserve a lot of cover on site for Gladiators to hide behind.
Well, the point in putting it on the left side of the wall is that it also does a collateral explosion onto the wall adjacent to it. This clears the power position just behind the bar as well, and that forfeits a lot of top core control for the defense. And there it is, Dark immediately capitalizing on that space from that breach and finding the first pick behind that bar power position.
A good early pick, but there is at least one back for Gladiators. On top of that, BG Man's been taken very, very low. Now, I was a bit debated. This is not exhibition site. This is actually bedroom downstairs. Not an objective we see taken very frequently. But Fury don't seem to be too rattled by that. They're pretty confident in clearing it.
Fury, they'll have to be a little bit quicker though. In the last round we saw they managed to get through that top floor control, eventually taking down Joe on that roam. Once again, top floor control has been forfeited to them, but they couldn't convert into the ground floor quick enough. We can see now the remaining 3 players of Gladiators, they've decided to just reconvene down on the ground floor. They know that Fury are going to take heaps of time. They still need to play vertical, get some of those breaches on the ground, and still 3 breaches in the pocket for I9. So Gladiators, they're still set up for this late game of the push, and Fury sort of stagnating now, hesitating in this mid round.
And the concern there for Fury is there's only 4 drones left. It's a nice kill from Lycolis to take down Rix, who was one of the few players on site. In fact, the only player on site. Ape's been spotted out. Joe's going to try and use the information to take down I9. He lands the shot, and that's a critical one for GAIMIN Gladiators as they now try and deny the entry into site. Joe's found another, and in this 2 versus 2, Joe now has upstairs control. And that means that he has a power position with vertical lines onto the bomb site. Can Fury, though, find a safe place to plant? They have the numbers advantage, but it's up to Hajime to cover Lycolis, and the suppressed F2 gets the job done.
Fury, that was well played from them, finally edging their way into that top floor. A big difference in that round between the previous 2 rounds is that they worked some of the external walls to help their entries get straight into the building without having to funnel their way through a window or through a door or something like that to make their lives really difficult getting into the building. This time they were able to utilize one of the power positions even that the defenders were using on the top floor to make that entry work for them. And eventually the extra time they had from making the early round successful converted to a late round execute really works in their favor. So Fury, I think they've cracked the puzzle here. They're starting to get a bit of momentum into this game, and the Gladiators, if they want to retain this defense, they will have to be a little bit more cautious.
My question is, why is Gladiators taking arguably, or I'm not even going to say arguably, what is generally accepted to be the worst bomb site on this map as their tertiary site? I already thought it was pretty unusual for Gladiators to go down to Barbecue Kitchen before trying Exhibition Office. But Gladiators just not interested in going Office at all. In contrast, like the previous game that we had, it was always Chiefs or Direwolves picking T first and Exhibition Office second. Sometimes, in fact, Direwolves actually started on Exhibition Office.
I feel like that's a fascinating question. I mean, if they're very confident on the bottom floor bomb sites, if they're confident in the way that they're falling off, maybe that's why they're going for it, because it does throw off the attackers, right? If you're an attacker and you see first the ground floor bomb site, that's immediately sort of a switch that you have to make in your brain and go, okay, we need to sort of change the way we're attacking because we didn't expect this, right? On the flip side, I mean, I suppose to add to that point, as an attacker, it can be quite hard because even though you've cleared through the top floor, you still need to convert a bit later into the mid-round onto another floor entirely. And I don't think that we've seen that a lot from Skyscraper because the map is so new. I feel like teams don't utilize both floors that well. So I feel like there's some merit to what Gladiators are currently doing.
Well, regardless, they go back to the first bomb site that they chose to defend. And they are peeling away with this defense as well. You could see the Electroclaw moved and now placed on the walls that face into Samurai. And that actually baits Tolji into getting a kill against Dark. BG Man's Gemini just walked straight on past him.
Oh no, and that's starting to spell a bit of disaster for Fury. Their early round has already been pretty tough so far in this series and just been made even more difficult with Tolji finding that pick. Now they'll have to find some other avenues into the building, starting to make the entry through Terrace here. Finally, some feet can follow in through Exhibition Office, but by then the defenders have already peeled quite far back into the room over here. Now, you were saying earlier, holding this power position here in Drum, holding the power position inside of Dragon as well, will be the next step for Fury.
It's not an easy step as well with the number of players that Gladiators have got here. Tolji holding with the 1.5. Spraying on through this long angle. Rix in a power position behind the Dragon. Manages to escape, but with BG Man taking out Tolji, Rix is now the last line of defense here at Shrine. And BG Man, he might have misdroned earlier, but he is a deadly machine with this ARX.
Rix, though, he's still holding on to Shrine, and I don't think they've quite seen him. The nade almost connecting. Maybe they are aware of his position after all, but the time is ticking away for Fury here. 3 versus 4 situation, but BG Man will trade it back to a 3-on-3. 45 seconds left. It's time to get the hard breach over to the wall and try and formulate and execute, because these long lines of sight that Gladiators have got are going to be very hard to contest.
And you can see Gladiators have pulled all the way back. They're no longer contesting Dragon or Drum. They're just falling back into Geisha and into that site. But of course, there are a lot of lines of sight that work both ways. Fury may have the read on it. Out goes a smoke. Hoven reveals his position. He's got to find this pick. That is imperative, but he loses the fight. That is like Colas going big at the top of the stairs, and now Fury will collapse onto the bomb site. Joe in a 1 versus 3. Time may be on his side, but numbers certainly are not, and it's Hajime once again to close. Fury are running it back.
Fury finally starting to find their stride, starting to find the momentum that they need into this game. A slow start for them, but eventually bringing back 2 rounds evens up the scoreline on this attacking half, and Gladiators on the back of that will decide to take the tactical timeout.
Very early timeout call here from Gladiators. The scoreline is 2 rounds apiece. That was 2 in a row. It's actually not a tactical timeout. There you go. We have the call from production. This is not a timeout. This is just a technical. And so, GAIMIN Gladiators, they not choosing to take it yet, which, to be honest, I think that's a good idea. But they got to wait it on out. They got to get back on that horse, because they just lost 2 rounds in a row to Fury, who, to be frank, like, Fury looked really poor in that first round and even in the second round as well. And now they're starting to gain a bit of confidence, a bit of momentum, and Gladiators have to be ready to receive that.
I think this is a good time as well, even in this tech timeout, for them to try and chat about what's going wrong for the Gladiators. I feel like they were playing pretty good Skyscraper early on, but now I'm starting to think, okay, maybe it was just that Fury weren't setting the pace. Maybe it was more Fury not playing a great entry, not playing a great early game that was giving Gladiators the win that they needed. This time, though, the Gladiators, they'll have to change their approach if they want to take Fury to it, because right now, they're starting to find some speed in this early round. They're starting to find the picks in the mid-round that they shouldn't be giving away. This Gladiators hold, it's more made to full back, right? It's not made to play your life and sit there and eventually lose your life out and die, right? You need to keep going back, keep playing those power positions that you've set up for yourself in the late round to be able to capitalize and convert it into a round win. But on the other side, Fury, I think they've just really turned it up so far, and they're playing an excellent attack.
So Gladiators, funnily enough, choosing not to go back to Tea Room Karaoke, which most people agree is the best side on this map for the defense. But they did just lose it to Fury. They're going to change things up once again, go back to Barbecue and Kitchen, which Fury struggled to attack previously, but I wouldn't read too much into that, to be honest. It just feels like Fury has started to warm up, to be like, that's really all it is. Like, they just they were playing pretty poorly in the first 2 rounds. They didn't have confidence or conviction, and now they do.
Interesting. A moment of quiet here in the early game as well. Only 20 seconds have passed, of course, as Fury start to make their approach to the building. Seems like they've changed their approach a little bit, not trying to all entry from one side like they did in the previous round. They missed and Tolji there, and it was pretty unfortunate for the early round, but instead they're trying to play some cutoffs here. BG Man now setting up one of his Osa shields on the bathroom window, even trying to look for any defenders rotating through the ground floor. Very spread out attack so far, and we'll see if it can catch the Gladiators off guard.
One thing I have noticed from Gladiators is the mute has been persistent. Every single round, Rix has been on this mute. And every single round, I've noticed Fury struggling with their drone work. Even now, only 6 drones left out of the 9 normal drones I started with, considering the Twitch, and she doesn't have an action phrase normal drone. So already Fury have started to suffer a little bit on the information gathering, but it hasn't stopped them from starting to clear some of these power positions, including that shield on Shrine, which has now been destroyed and the player fallen back.
And this is some really quick pacing here from Fury as well. That's already half of the map cleared for them. Last time that we were in this position, they only had about a minute left to go and they'd cleared through the top floor. Now there's an extra 30, 40 seconds under their belt to clear through this top floor, try and take the fights early. But on the flip side, Gladiators are also falling back a little earlier, trying to learn from their mistakes and not give away picks this time.
I9, though, loses out that fight. And that means that Gladiators once again can take the lead, the early pick, and fall back.
Top floor control, once again, only one Gladiators player left here to hold on to Karaoke as Hoven starts to make his way through the hallway, supposedly down the back stairs. If he's not caught out by BG Man, though, Rix fortunately trades one back for the Gladiators. 40 seconds, left to go in this round. But is that a flank coming up through Shrine?
Oh my god, no! Abe! This man! How does he make that work out of nowhere? A knife in the back and a spray on the player droning. It's easy as you like for this man. Now, Dark is in a 1 versus 4, and that is not going to work out. Ape! Where did that come from, Mandy?
I think that was just... To add to your point about the mute dev, I think that just compounded into flank drones as well. Not only are they struggling to get drones in the building, struggling to get that information, even some of the walls open, but they're also running out of drones for flanks. They're not having people sitting on supposedly the main stairs drone, I assume is where Ape would have flanked it, or how else he could have gotten into that position as well, right? And so the intel game really lacking for Fury as well. Maybe too many players were live and no one was watching it, or something like that went wrong for them. But the Gladiators are able to capitalize on that timing and Ape with a huge flank to eventually win them the round.
It's goes to show why Ape is the best player in APAC South right now, which is just so crazy to think. I would have always said someone like Speakeasy or Jigsaw or I mean, one of the Elevate players, one of the Direwolves players maybe. But no, it's the humble Gladiators, the team that has just promoted into APAC South at the start of this year. Ape has only been playing in Tier 1 of Rainbow Six for, what, 4 months now? And he's topping this league by a pretty decent margin and making all kinds of impressive plays like that. So it's just exciting to see the young talent that has been introduced into this league with the Gladiators joining it. And we have no doubts about their, I guess, their place in this league. They well and truly earned it in the relegations. And it was a surprise to a lot of teams that were perhaps expecting Bliss to make it through. But not only Gladiators have they earned that spot, but they have shown that there's no other team that would be in that place.
I think so, and I think that they've taken this position they've got given really seriously as well. There's so much progress between last stage and this stage. They look so much like a competitive team, one that plays together, one that has a well thought out strat book. It's very diverse, right, what they can do. And on top of that, every single player seems to have leveled up somehow. They all have grown into very strong players mechanically. They've all grown strong in game sense. We just saw from Ape once again. Whereas Fury, they're just starting to rebuild their team. It's a completely different story for them, right? Picking up Napew, now I9, means that they'll have to reform the team. They'll have to change the dynamic, and I think it'll really be difficult against a team like the Gladiators in this series.
But BG Man has made his way into the building, and Fury once again persistent on these entries. However, once again also struggling with the drone work. You can see only 5 drones remain. As there's over half the round left to go, they start clearing these power positions. Once again, the Shrine Shield has been destroyed. The Gladiators are still loitering around in Drum, as the Oryx of Hoven does manage to take out that Twitch drone before falling back.
Well, this time, because the bomb site is no longer on that ground floor, the Gladiators, they can't give up the position as early because it's so close to the bomb site already, right? They need to hold onto a few more rooms for as long as they can. That's why we see a player playing so closely on that main stairs right next to that drum building. That's exactly why we see Ape down below already, ready to go for that flank or trying to play for picks around that mezzanine sort of the rectangular skylight type looking thing. And there's so many more positions now that Gladiators have to hold onto, because otherwise they're going to lose the bomb site directly on this top floor, right? And so now a minute left to go. Fury have made excellent progress, and the Gladiators, they'll have to not get too antsy to give away picks.
Ape once again on the prowl downstairs. Won't be able to pull off a flank quite like he did last round, but it might not matter anyway. Joe's got the lockdown on site. Dark falling to the wayside. Another opening kill for Gladiators.
And here we go, 5 versus 4, 30 seconds left, and the Fury, they will have to flood the bomb site.
Time is of the essence for Fury now, but they have got the numbers back to an equality. Hoven's got a very long angle though. It's going to have to be some explosive entries as Hoven does find one. The trades are back and forth, but Ape, of course it is. Once again, he steps up and told you to close. That's GAIMIN Gladiators to win the half.
Ape has absolutely shown up in this half. Gladiators, they dialed it back. That tech timeout, I think they really used to their advantage there. They figured out exactly what was going wrong, and that was in the mid-round. They were taking too many fights. They were pushing it too early even to Fury. Fury, they're quite mechanically strong, right? So you don't want to take those 1 versus 1 fights early, and they'd really figured it out afterwards to dial it back, wait for Fury to come to you, and eventually find the timing on those peaks. That was Joe deciding to fall back maybe a second too late, but he still wins out the duel anyway. Ape finding the swing onto the entry instead right late into the round when the comms are kind of cluttered for Fury, when they're struggling to make that execute happen. And so I think that was some great adaptation from Gladiators to eventually bring back that half. Now they're going to take us onto their defending half instead, onto their attacking half instead, rather. And I really hope that they can repeat that progress and repeat that momentum.
The Gladiators really dominated the opening kills in that half. 5-1. Dark, the only Fury player to get an opening kill, and he only managed to do it once. In fact, that is his only kill this entire game so far. The same can be said for I9. Napew, infamous player, one of the coolest guys to ever play Rainbow Six. Got quite a reception at the Six Invitational. But, of course, departing Elevate, moving on to a new roster after a stage on the bench. It's quite a different game for him, trying to slot onto this new roster. And while we have seen some good moments, their game against the Chiefs, for example, consistency is key in a league like this. You need to be consistent across all 7 of your matches if you have a shot at playoffs, which, to be frank, we didn't expect either of these teams to be in a spot for playoffs. I don't think that made it.
Oh, that was so close. I was so excited for that. Almost a bandit trick onto the... sorry, not a bandit trick, a mute trick onto the wall. I really thought that he had it before he hit the thermite. The thermite blow up the wall button, but he didn't quite get it in time anyway. Rick's now starting to get his way into this single wall that goes into the top of office. I'm not really sure what we're going to call this wall, Deb. I feel like it's pretty vital for this top floor, though.
VIP wall, I guess?
VIP wall, I suppose so. Yeah, I feel like that's not a bad name for it. We're going to call that from now on. Now getting open the VIP wall. This is something that Gladiators are doing that's quite different from Fury. Instead of just trying to hit the bomb site, cutting corners, they're opening up as many walls, as many avenues as they possibly can to look for picks and to try and rattle the defense, divide their attention and see what they can find. We can see Gladiators, they're making their entryway much, much easier for themselves by opening up this wall here in Geisha.
Oh, the combo of the nade and the spray was beautiful there. The I9 stays on his breadstick as Hoven finds the opener. Once again, Gladiators finding the opening pick, and I mean here it looks like Tolji's good for one as well.
Joe's also starting to make his way up the back stairs as well. We'll start to get control here into this drum and shrine sign fairly soon. Tolji takes the duel with Hajime and eventually wins it out as well. And the Gladiators, they're setting themselves up for success in this mid-round.
In comes the Twitch drone. Spots out the Jaeger player, but Dark just falls on back. Really under pressure though from that VIP wall and the unusual breach that's been made on it that gives Gladiators a nice line of sight.
And this is very tough for Fury. They've been put in a very precarious position where everything around them is open, and there's a Gladiators player waiting for them around every corner. There it is, like Hollis, failing the swing onto Ape as he eventually finds one as well. A 1 versus 3 situation left for BG, man, and the Gladiators. That mid-round has really compounded into such a successful end round here.
And the Gladiators are just so good on this map. You can see it in the way that they play. BG, man, would have had to ace. It's not going to happen. A very strong start on the attacking side for the Gladiators. We're only 2 rounds away from winning this map.
The Gladiators have really shown us such a strong understanding of how Skyscraper works, in my opinion. I think Fury, it felt like even on their attacking half, they were pulling at strings to make their entryways work. They weren't getting any walls open. They weren't trying to play cutoffs. Even though they were spread out thin, it just felt like they were just trying to find a window to hop in through, find a door that was clear or something like that to make their way in, instead of setting up those long lines of sight, setting up positions that the Gladiators would have struggled in that defense. Whereas the Gladiators, it feels like they're attacking from all sides. They're opening up all the walls that they need to. They're getting their entries in from very strange and precarious positions. I would want to note Joe going through the back stairs there. And Fury, they must be feeling pretty confused on that defense half.
Definitely, it's a tough one to come back from as they do take their tactical timeout. Fury have got a lot to discuss. How do they play this defensive side? Now, I'm going to point it out as well. We've talked a little bit about Exhibition Office so far. That was the first time this entire game that Exhibition Office has been picked for the defense. Gladiators did not want to defend it at all. Perhaps a testament to how strong they are at attacking it, because they did have a very convincing attack just then. And, well, for Fury now, it looks like they will go back to that same site as last time. Andy, I got to admit, I'm not sure I'm confident in this. Gladiators seem so good at attacking this side.
I would agree with you, I think. Gladiators, I just think there is such a big difference in fundamental understanding of this map between the two teams. Just the way that the Gladiators use the architecture of the map is so much more superior than Fury. Even Fury now repeating this particular bomb site, they've brought Kaid this time to try and electrify the walls, but I don't feel like there are big enough changes being made to their defense to stop the way that the Gladiators are shaping up this map in their favor. And if the Gladiators, they just simply repeat the formula of attack that they went for before, I don't really see that going wrong for them.
I mean, the only operator that has changed for Fury is that they've gotten rid of the mute in favor of the Aruni. Like, why get rid of the mute? We saw how powerful it was when Gladiators used it on their defensive side. We talked about it quite a bit. On top of that, the Twitch has been a really present pick for Joe. And even with those electric laws, like, the Twitch is going to be hunting those down. We see it right now. This Twitch sneaking into sight. Manages to get away for a moment, but I do wonder, has he got another... Yeah, he has another Twitch drone in pocket, so he'll try and get that claw off a bit later.
And it seems like the Gladiators, once again, starting to work straight on this wall. Maybe the Kai trick will come into fruition for Fury, though. That wall is currently electrified, and nade to follow from the Maverick to try and clear it off. The nade missing the mark, that's just gone a little bit far, so another attempt again for Rix to throw one in. He's decided to make this hole a little bit bigger for himself, so it's not so difficult to get it in. But where is this electric claw, actually? It feels like it's in a very odd spot. Oh, and a C4 to come through. Was that shot out of the air?
It must have been.
Oh my goodness.
Now, there's a lot of really good spots. You can actually see where the electric law is on this left side, inside the cabinet. I don't know if Sky can zoom in on it, but there's...
No, this is as zoomed as he can get.
Yeah, they've broken in on the cabinet. Sorry, they've broken the cabinet, put the electric claw inside it. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to nade that one off. And I assume the other electric claw that's getting the right-hand walls is probably just in the bar somewhere. There you go. You can see it just in the little corner down there underneath the light sconce. So... what a shame for Fury. You know, they're actually going to give up... for Gladiators, they're actually going to give up completely on breaching that wall.
Well, thankfully, they've started to make their work into the other side of the map instead. A little bit of redundancy here on the side of the Gladiators' attack. Hoven now making his way in the building. Might catch Dark off guard unless he catches him first. Dark eventually winning out in that engagement, followed up by I9, doubling down for Fury.
Well, this is nice. I mean, it feels like everything that we were saying earlier has been disproven. Fury are starting to adapt. They're starting to read into the way that Gladiators are playing. They're starting to improve their Skyscraper setups on the fly. And look, Gladiators, I don't know whether you can pin this on them. You know, the Twitch was ineffective. The nades and the Maverick were ineffective. And I mean, if you can't breach that wall when you've got those two operators plus a Thermite and, you know, 2 sets of nades, I don't know if you can blame anyone other than yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And now 20 seconds left to go. There have been very little avenues into the building as well. And they'll have to just funnel straight through. Ape does find one, though, and left in the 4 versus 2. 4 versus 1 for Joe. It seems quite impossible here.
Got to use that F2 at least, but 3 players left to find. Not happening. Bit of a bait and switch around with the pistol, but Fury can get another round on the board. Of course, keep their dreams of an overtime regulation win alive. Of course, for GAIMIN Gladiators to win even a single more round, that's points taken away from Fury by guaranteeing at least an overtime for Gladiators. So that's nice for Fury, and on the back of their tactical pause as well, to be expected. But that doesn't change the fact that this is a very, very strong lead from the Gladiators, and if they can keep it up, Fury are going to have a really rough time trying to make a comeback.
I feel like you phrased it perfectly, though, in that previous round. I think that Fury absolutely disproved me. As soon as I said, oh, I feel like the Gladiators have a better understanding of the architecture, immediately 2 Electro Claws that are hidden in very precarious positions come out on the side of Fury. And I think they must have exactly read my mind. Maybe they're in our comms and we don't know. Who knows? But Fury, they seem to know exactly what to do. And I hope that they can repeat it on this side as well. Otherwise, it's going to start spelling disaster if Gladiators are able to reach that match point stage of the series.
I really would love to know where BG Man's Electric Claws were on the previous defense of that bomb site, because you remember at the very start, Gladiators just breached the wall when there was that mute jammer that was just not put down quite early enough. Mute jammer shouldn't even be relevant. You've got Kaid on the board, you know, you put the claws where Fury had him last round. I don't know. I'm confused, Mandy. I am. I really am. But hey, Gladiators, you're going to have to attack more bomb sites than just that one. And now we go back to Tea Room Karaoke, which many people believe is the strongest site on this map. And I think this is really where the Gladiators will be tested.
And Fury are taking a very different approach to this particular bomb site as well. Instead of having that long line of sight that goes between both of the bomb sites, they've actually opened up just little footsie holes that go into the first half of that bomb site, the one that goes towards the tea room instead. And so that way their power positions are sort of cut in half through that hallway. So immediately 2 different philosophies coming out from these 2 teams on either half. Hajime now immediately contesting this early game from Gladiators, as they'll have to make their way swiftly into the building.
Very much a forfeit from Fury. They fall back, not looking to contest too hard as the players and the Twitch drone goes on out. Now, Fury was really good at clearing this power position that we can see. Is that BG Man playing? I'm not sure who is the one playing the shield position. It's the Jaeger player. There you go, Dark. So this is the really powerful position now for Fury to hold on to. And I wonder with that Flores, perhaps it won't last very much longer.
A nade to go in from Ape will eventually take down this power position as Dark is forced to fall back onto these long lines of sight that they've made through the tea room instead. Oh, a bit of a brave peek from BG Man as well, almost loses out his life. But 1 minute and 20 seconds left on the board for Gladiators, and they'll have to start formulating and execute pretty soon.
I9 has the shotgun on this flank. The shotgun! Let's see if this really can be a Super 90. He gets the player, and with it, the diffuser. Can he find another one? Super 90 out once again. He gets the double! I have never seen anything quite like it. He finally gets traded back, but Fury have done their damage. Now 1 minute left, and ticking away by the moment. Hoven goes down to Dark, and Gladiators are looking a little bit silly.
I can't believe that we've just seen the same flank happen on 2 different teams, on 2 different halves, with the same operator, but this time with a shotgun as well, Dev. What is going on for the flank drones for both of these teams? Eventually, the attack falls down. Fury, off the back of what was an incredible flank, will inevitably win that round out in the end, Dev. And I cannot believe what kind of match we're seeing. It just feels like the most basic thing. Guys, we need a main stairs flank drone. That Claymore, that timing was so unfortunate for the player putting going down. I think it was the ace on the side of Gladiators, just getting caught out by a shotgun there. Bad timing, but I9, wow, what a flank.
It's a bit ironic to see the flank watch player putting down the Claymore as the one who dies to a flank. Oh, honestly, that's a pretty critical round for Gladiators that they've lost. Fury is only one defense win behind tying up, and match point wouldn't be far away for them either. We've got to acknowledge that this is, in theory, defender-sided, this map. Like, this should be, particularly I think with the level of team that we're talking about right now, this should be defense wins for 2 halves. And that's what Gladiators did on the first half. And we were a bit worried for Fury when they showed that they couldn't tack that well, or so they couldn't defend that well themselves in their first round of this half. But they have gotten straight back on that horse with that tactical timeout. And now Gladiators are letting these opportunities go amiss.
10 seconds remaining.
And the Gladiators, I'm starting to wonder, like, when is the time where they're going to take their tactical timeout? When is the time where they go, okay, our problem solving right now in the moment, in the heat of the moment, isn't working out for us. We need to take some time to sit down and figure out exactly what's going wrong. Because, in my opinion, it doesn't feel like they're doing heaps particularly wrong. It doesn't feel like there are that many glaring mistakes, bar not having a flank thrown on the main stairs, essentially, from that last round, right? And so the Gladiators, I think they just need to do their due diligence, not cut corners, take their time, and here it is. Actually, Hoven not taking any time at all, immediately getting a breach open and making his way into the building.
Well, this is go big or go home for Hoven here. Ape does find the opening pick. Dark goes down. That's a very aggressive pick from Dark. BG Man actually disconnects. That is not good for Fury. They're now playing a 3 versus 5 for the rest of this round. As the drones come out, this is a barbecue kitchen defense for Fury, but they forfeited most, if not all, of this top floor.
And I like this from Hoven as well, helping out his teammate in Joe, creating a rotation hole between the 2 halves of the team so they can freely rotate between each other, and also starting to get that sledgehammer on the castle barricades as well. The Gladiators, they seem to be very set up for success here. Also another castle barricade going down on the ground floor. This is the difference between the 2 teams as well, right? Now the Gladiators, they know that the bomb site is the ground floor, so they know they need to send plays to try and convert that round a little earlier. Rix doubling down as well on another pick onto I9, leaves Fury in a very dire position.
Yeah, I mean, this is really desperate now, and you know what's worse? The logic bomb. Dockerby is calling, and Hajime knows that he can no longer rely on hiding in that rat corner. Neither can Lycolis, as he's been droned. A nade is coming through. Not likely to get him, and he does find the pick onto 8. Not a lot of bullets left in that SMG-11, and Hoven punishes him for it. Now it's Hajime on for a 1 versus 4. Bit of information, but he reveals his position. Can get the first one, but he's taken down so low for it. What a shot! Hoven goes down. 1v2 for Hajime. The second best rated player in APAC South is on for a 1 versus 4 clutch. But he's got to land his shots. He's got the information. Rix takes a bit of damage. But now forcing that diffuser down, it is Tolji to cover. And with that, Gladiators finally breach onto match point.
1 point on the board for the Gladiators. They'll be feeling pretty happy about that, breaking away from Fury as well in the standings. But now it's time to put your head down and close it out. Another tech pause here as we wait for one more Fury player to rejoin the lobby as well. We'll give the Gladiators what they need to sit down, chat, see how they can close out this match early. They don't want to lose any more points. Every single point in this league is vital, and so a regulation win is on the cards here for them.
This match is Gladiators for the taking. I tell you what, with Fury unlocking that exhibition office site, Gladiators now have this technical pause while BG Man tries to reconnect to talk about that exhibition office site, right? You know, like Gladiators stalled out so hard on that electric claw. Twitch drones couldn't get it. The grenades and the Maverick couldn't get it. But now you've got time. Like, there are a million ways to problem solve in this game. Like, whenever there's an obstacle, you never just call it a day. And when you have been gifted the chance to talk through something like this, that's exactly what you should be doing right now. You know, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to clear that electric claw?
Honestly, I feel like that electrical is just so tough to clear. I would almost be considering just like giving up on it, or even just trying to clear the bar the bar one with the Twitch drone instead of sending in those grenades or something like that. But that's
Well,
such
how's this?
specific.
Just Maverick the top and bottom of the wall, for goodness sake. Like, it's not right.
Yeah, just trick it. That's another one as well. But I mean, I just feel like for the Gladiators, there are so many other avenues that they could get into that building. I mean, we saw last time, instead of going straight in through that wall, instead of trying to hit the bomb site, they tried for a roam clear instead. So maybe go with what you know, go with what you're good at, and just focus players on more of a linear clear across the building instead, or something like that. Because even though from our top down, we can problem solve that, right, Dev? We can say, like, let's restrict the wall, let's just send in a Twitch drone, or your nade needs to land specifically here, or something like that. These things don't work in Siege. Not everything goes exactly the way you plan it, right? And so I think if you're currently in the lobby, you want to go with what works to try and close out this match in regulation.
Yeah, 100%. I'd agree with you on that. Like, Gladiators, they clearly have experience playing this map. They know what they're doing, and they have the time to talk about whatever solution they deem fit. They now will have no excuse, really. Like, they will not get into the server and be surprised unless a Fury really throws a spanner in the works. And right now, I mean, I'm sure Fury would love to be talking about what they're doing to try and throw a curveball to Gladiators' way to try and keep this game alive and push to overtime. But let's be honest, like, Fury is probably more distracted right now than Gladiators. They're the ones who are trying to get that extra player back in the server.
Well, I think for Fury to be able to get back into this game, it's possible. We've seen them adapt, we've seen them learn quite a lot throughout the game, make those mid-round adaptions, mid-game adaptions, and fix their mistakes as well. So I wouldn't count Fury out of it just yet. I think that they can also use this time, although a little bit distracted, to try and figure out what the game plan is, how they're going to step their way back in and try and steal some points off the Gladiators.
Stage 1, Fury ended dead last on 0 points. In Stage 1, Renatus, so the now GAIMIN Gladiators team, ended up 6th on 8 points. So they were actually only 4 points away from making it to the playoffs, getting into the top 4. But still, close is not close enough. And that is even more the case now in Stage 2. Like, Gladiators, they proved to themselves in Stage 1. They had that warm-up stage. They've kept mostly the same roster. They brought on Joe, who's a very experienced player formerly from Invictus. Like, this team is now saying, look, we've proven that we can hang in this league. Now it's time to prove that we can go and actually be at the top of this league and try and make majors. And if they're not beating Fury, I just don't think that that's even remotely possible.
Absolutely, and I think the Gladiators, they've really proven to us some big progress as we get back into this match as well. We will be taken to the Expedition office just as you'd predicted, Dev, as well. And the Gladiators, they shouldn't be surprised coming into this matchup, into this bomb site. They shouldn't feel surprised trying to clear out this particular setup. Nothing has changed, right? Oh, actually, no, BG Man is back on the Kaid. Sorry, I got baited because he was in a different spot before. Anyway, the Kaid is still on the board as well for Fury, and so Gladiators, they won't be facing the same problems as they did last time. Hopefully, they will have fixed those mistakes, found a way around it, and they won't attempt to try and clear this Kaid core. Here it is. That's the corner of the cabinet that we're going to see BG Man throw it in just now, I believe. Oh, that's such a cheeky Kaid spot.
I'm glad that Sky has shown us this one. So that gets the left wall, the left panel only, but it's of course very hard to destroy. Is he going to go and pick it up? What's the play here? Is he looking to try and juggle it instead, or is he just having a moment of confusion?
I feel like he's having a bit of a moment. He's going, okay, do I want to juggle it or just play it safe? You know what? I feel like these are pretty solid Kaid claws already. Just play it safe. Thanks, BG Man. As the rest of the Gladiators start to shape up to go throughout the map, we can see Tolji, since there is no Kaid Claw on the single VIP wall, that's going to be opened up straight away instead. But this time, the Gladiators, they're not rotating over onto the main breach because they know how difficult it was from the last attempt, and instead Rix will rotate both the bomb and his grenades onto the other side of the map.
What's the play with Hoven on the Amaru as well? That is not something you see very frequently. He was not on this at any point in the past, and now he's 6-picked onto it. We've also got Ape on the Ash, which we haven't seen as of yet. You know, Ape has had a phenomenal game so far. 13-6, top-ranked player in the league right now, and he just misses a chance on furthering that KD even more so. As the drone goes out, he doesn't want to overextend.
That was a bit tight there from Fury, just narrowly missing out. Oh no, I think that is a miss drone. Ape! Oh no, a second drone to come through. The shotgun gets pulled out from I9 and he will collect the kill onto the entry of GAIMIN Gladiators. Oh no, that's disaster for them in this early round.
That is a critical miss drone that will haunt Ape for the rest of this game. His teammate had a drone go right past I9, and it just was not good enough. Now Gladiators, they're trying to go for this map clear because they know that they're struggling to breach the bomb site. But now the map clear hasn't gone their way either. And there's a potential threat of a flank downstairs.
Oh no, the time is dwindling away as well. There's only a minute left on the board. Not that much progress has been made. And like you said, there's still the threat of a flank as well. The Gladiators, they'll have to pull something out of the hat through this mid-round. They'll have to clear some of these power positions if they want their way back into this round.
Yeah, that's it. At this point, it really feels like Gladiators just have to send it, just have to go for broke. Rely on their pure gun skill, but the best gunner on their team was the first to fall. Now BG Man's got such a strong position, even like Colas in an unusual spot. BG Man finds the first pick from behind the Dragon. Bit of damage on him, but it doesn't matter. That's Fury, they're making their comeback. And they've made it a 5 versus 1 against Hoven, who's got to try and duel his best. He can't even find a single kill. And Lycolis locks in a flawless round. We're going to need the entirety of regulation to settle this.
And that's exactly the story here, right? Gladiators, now they're starting to feel that pressure. The 3 points is starting to slip away from their hands. Only one more attempt here to regulation win, and they will have to convert it in this round. Oh my goodness, I just can't believe the 2 shots that BG Man landed there on the back of the Dragon as well. They were just such crazy shots, and Fury, they've been really showing up here in this early round.
Yeah, they really have. I think Fury are kind of carried a little bit by that electric claw, and then they just played into it well. You know, they knew, hey, we've got these nice claws that seemingly Gladiators aren't able to clear. So let's just make sure that we're ready for what Gladiators will rotate and try and push. Because Fury had that read. They knew that Gladiators are, okay, going to go and try and push on the other side of the map, and they had a pretty good roam game to settle against that. And the one thing I know for certain here, Maddie, is like Gladiators will not be satisfied dropping any points from this game. Like, this should be over. This should be Gladiators taking home the 3 points, which would, by the way, put them in a pretty solid position to be fighting for those major spots in the top 2. You know, they would be jumping over Direwolves, for example.
5 seconds to go.
And this is the part of the story of Apex South where not just every game matters, but every point, every round matters, right? And so for the Gladiators, like any other team in Apex South, this is not something that they want to lose. This is their battle through the mid-round, and through the mid-round, you want your 1 point. You want everything that you can get. Fury now will be re-attempting this exhibition off this side. No changes to the setup like the last time they've attempted the bomb side as well. It seems to be much of the same. The same roam coming out as well on the other side of the map, although not supported by as many Rios this time, just the one on the view. Actually, quite a lot of Rios. Never mind, I take that back as we pan over to the other side of this map. I think that's 2, 4, 5, 6 Rios dedicated to this side of the map so far, and so lots of pressure being put here on this roam. I hope that it's fruitful for Fury.
Gladiators better hope that they can deal with it. They found the first pick. It's Ape once again. If Gladiators win this round, they will take it 7-5, get 3 points on the standings, and be first place in APAC South as of the end of this game. That would be unreal for Gladiators to come from Relos and all the way up to first place on the standings in Playday 3. But if they lose this round, if it goes to overtime, every point matters. And they will be bleeding points they can't afford to against a team like Fury.
Gladiators seemingly simplifying their process instead of going for any of these cutoffs, trying to open up walls in advance or something like that. They're just going to go, okay, let's just take it linear, sweep through the map one at a time, play the trades. And with that pick going their way as well, it seems to be working out for them now, taking control of that Shrine power position. That shield now gone on the side of Fury. Will have to fall back into the site. And now Rix has got his eyes set on Geisha.
Really looking at Gladiators here. They are the ones that are in the driver's seat. They've got the opening pick. All but 1 round so far in this map. The opening kill has led to a round win. That means the pressure is on Fury, and Rix lands the nade. This is everything Gladiators have been looking for on a silver platter, and that is the game to close it with a flawless round. The GAIMIN Gladiators are the #1 team in APAC South.
Absolutely, just keep it simple, keep it cool, says the Gladiators as they sweep throughout the map and sweep you through to eventually take that series in full regulation. That's them in first place. That is absolutely huge for this team, and they'll be feeling really thrilled about that. We saw in their play camp so much animation, so much emotion from them from this new roster